Deputy Cleary, you have 30 seconds.
Currer is just to ask the Minister to outline where he intends to find the €120 million announced last week in relation to an extension of the terms of the Lansdowne Road Agreement, and also €25 million that is part of the Garda settlement that is being assigned to general expenditure.
The requisite funding in respect of the recent government decision for an additional payment to public servants with annualised salaries up to €65,000, as provided for under Section 6 of the Lansdowne Road Agreement, will be met from available public resources, taking into account the scope for the reallocation of expenditure while ensuring that core public services are not adversely affected. With regard to the separate Labour Relations Commission decision in favour of increased Guard remuneration, the Government agreed in December to fund half of the estimated €50 million cost of that recommendation, with the balance to be met from savings within the Justice Group of votes to be achieved during this year. The additional funding of €25 million from the Exchequer was provided in the revised estimates volume, which was published before Christmas. The extent to which departments are in a position to meet the additional cost of the broader recommendation with unions will only be determined later in the year. The Government will monitor the position closely and will consider how best to meet any additional funding requirements where this need arises. However, given that the additional cost represents 0.2% of total gross voted current expenditure, most departments should be accordingly in a position to absorb the additional costs arising from this decision. As reported in the end December Exchequer returns, savings of €168 million were achieved in 2016, which is less than the sum of money in consideration for this year. In conclusion, it is important to note that this is effectively a once-off additional payment for 2017. It is not, Ceann Comhairle, a recurring payment. This is because the payment will then be replaced by the already scheduled and budgeted payment for public servants on similar terms of €1,000 to annualised salaries up to €65,000 from the 1st of September 2017.
Thank you, Minister.
The carry-over costs into 2018 of this payment have therefore already been provided for in respect of the Lansdowne Road Agreement for 2018.
Deputy Cleary.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, I want to give you a quote from the Fiscal Advisory Council, who commented, for 2017, the fiscal space under the rules has already been allocated in Budget 2017 for tax cuts and expenditure increases. As a consequence, any new increases in expenditure, such as to fund higher public sector pay, imply lower spending in other areas, unless offset by compensatory tax changes. So, could you give a guarantee that there will not be any impact on services delivered by any department? Well, I am just concerned that we are coming in at the beginning of the second month of the year, and that you have allocated €120 million worth of expenditure that you still don't know where it's going to come from. And finally, I will ask you to comment on the overnight development in relation to the HSE's decision to withdraw its appeal to the Workplace Relations Commission in relation to the payment of consultants, and the potential that that may have for a necessary increase in the Department of Health budget. Can you outline what the Government's strategy is for dealing with that decision?
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. I'll just open up with the matter that you concluded with. I'm not going to comment on the details of the two individual cases that were agreed there overnight. But what I do want to be very clear to the House on, Deputy, is that the Government will be vigorously defending our case in relation to consultant contracts over the coming period. And as we move into the period of defending our case in this, the Department of Health, the Department of Finance and my own department will be parties to that case, and we will vigorously defend our views and our legal case in relation to this matter. In relation to the two other areas that you have raised with me, Deputy, I have outlined a process whereby across the year I will identify this funding, and I will be accountable to you and to the House in relation to that.
Thank you, Minister.
The other challenge that I face, of course, is if I had not made this agreement, I could have faced a far larger uncertainty in the public finances for 2016.
Deputy.
Sure, I'll focus on the case because you've left a lot of unanswered questions there. How can you say you're vigorously defending a case when you've withdrawn the appeal? I don't want you to comment on the two specific cases, but I want you to comment on the reports that we're seeing across all the media today that this could cost up to €350 million. You've lost the case. And by the fact that you've withdrawn the appeal to the case, the notion of vigorously defending it seems rather hollow. So I respect you don't and you can't comment on the two specific cases, but what are the overall implications of this decision not to proceed with the appeal? What are those implications for the health budget in 2017, 2018 and beyond? And when will we have a strategy from the government as to how you're going to deal with that? And will that impact on already services that are in crisis in the health sector?
Minister to conclude.
In relation to what we're going to do on this point, Deputy, what I have said, and I have made comment on two individual cases that reached agreement over the last 24 hours, but my comments refer to those cases that are to come, of which there are a number. And the government will make very clear that we will be robustly defending our views in relation to consultant contracts, which date back to 2009. This is an issue that has been going on now for a number of years. And the terms and settlements in relation to those individual cases that were settled, I'm not going to comment on. It wouldn't be appropriate. But to deal with the issue you have just asked me in relation to cost, it would be absolutely irresponsible of me to come into the Oireachtas here and outline a liability in relation to cases which the state will be defending and which we will be making very clear our robust views on this matter.
Thank you, Minister.
I'm happy to confirm that to the House now.